Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study of the book of Esther. And I'm just going to read to you chapter 4, because now Mordecai appeals to Esther for help. Haman has convinced King Xerxes, King Ahasuerus, to kill all the Jews. And Haman has promised to pay for it out of his own pocket. And the king has made this decree, not knowing it's the Jews, just knowing it's somebody. He's made this decree, and it cannot be revoked. And he doesn't know that the love of his life, his Queen Esther, is a member of this ethnic group. Nor does Haman know that. So Mordecai appeals to Esther for help. And let me just read chapter 4. When Mordecai learned all that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out into the midst of the city and wailed loudly and bitterly. And he went as far as the king's gate, for no one was to enter the king's gate clothed in sackcloth. And in each and every province where the command and decree of the king came, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting, weeping, and wailing, and many lay on sackcloth and ashes. Then Esther's maidens and her eunuchs came and told her, and the queen writhed in great anguish, and she sent garments to clothe Mordecai, that he might remove his sackcloth from him, but he didn't accept them. And Esther summoned Hatak from the king's eunuchs, whom the king had appointed to attend her, and ordered him to go to Mordecai and learn what this was and why it was. And Hathach went out to Mordecai to the city square in front of the king's gate. And Mordecai told him all that had happened to him, and the exact amount of money that Haman had promised to pay the king's treasury for the destruction of the Jews. He also gave him a copy of the text of the edict which had been issued in Susa for their destruction, that he might show Esther and inform her, and order her to go into the king and implore his favor to plead with him for her people. And Hatak came back and related Mordecai's words to Esther. And Esther spoke to Hatak and ordered him to reply to Mordecai, all the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that for any man or woman who comes to the king to the inner court who is not summoned, he has but one law, that he be put to death, unless the king holds out to him the golden scepter, so that he may live. And I have not been summoned to come to the king for these 30 days. And they related Esther's words to Mordecai. Then Mordecai told them to reply to Esther, do not imagine that in the king's palace you can escape any more than all the Jews. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise from the Jews from another place, and you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not attained royalty for such a time as this? Then Esther told them to reply to Mordecai, go, assemble all the Jews who are found in Susa, and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maidens also will fast in the same way. And thus I will go into the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went away and did just as Esther had commanded him. God's name and the worship of God does not appear in the book of Esther, and this drives commentators nuts. And I think, as I've said before, there's a reason. This is an exercise for us to do in this book what we do in everyday life, which is find God in it. And if we can't find God in this chapter, we're not going to find God in this book at all, because God is in this chapter. The sackcloth, the ashes, the fasting, it's like the writer is going out of his way to talk about worship of God and petition before God without saying any of those things, but communicating to us that that's exactly what he's describing. And when Mordecai says to Esther, if you remain silent, the Jews are going to be delivered, but from someplace else. I mean, he is mourning, but there is in him a faith that God will not let his people completely perish. And he believes in that. He does. He hasn't said God's name, but who else? What else could this be if it's not the result of his faith in God? And then he says, and how do you know that you weren't put there for this very moment? Well, who put her there for this very moment? And then, so she says, go and assemble, fast for me. If we were filling in the blanks, we would write pray. It's the most natural thing in the world for us to say. And it's everything that, that he, that he says that the writer has done in this chapter is a fill in the blank, an ellipsis, which makes God and prayer and worship just pop into our heads. It's very subliminal. It is. It very much is. This suggestion. I mean, God is there in this chapter. Prayer is there in this chapter. And she says, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. If I die, I die. I'm going to spend 3 days fasting about this, and then I'm going to go. And if I die, I die. And so Esther has this plan. We'll talk about Esther carrying out her plan next time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.